I wanted to read a little bit of Micah. It's got, what is Micah, 4 chapters? So much in his word everywhere. It's always been there. Trying to find it. Okay. So much in all his word. And Messiah taught this thing, not as it's a thing, but this teaching, and it's an important thing. And whatever is true is important. The gathering from the ends of the earth, from the four winds, from the ends of the earth, from the four corners, basically from all over the earth. And that is for the end of the age. Woe to those, Micah 2, woe to those who devise iniquity and work out evil on their beds. At morning light they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. They covet fields and take them by violence, also houses, and seize them. So they oppress a man and his house, a man and his inheritance. I'll just say Yah for Lord. Therefore, thus says Yah, behold, against this family I am devising disaster, from which you cannot remove your necks, nor shall you walk haughtily, for this is an evil time. In that day one shall take up a proverb against you and lament with a bitter lamentation, saying, we are utterly destroyed. He has changed the heritage of my people, how he has removed it from me. To turncoat he has divided our fields. Therefore you will have no one to determine boundaries by lot in the assembly of Yah. Do not prattle, you say to those who prophesy, so they shall prophesy to you. They shall not return insult for insult. What is the footnote here? Not take shame. You who are named the house of Jacob, is the spirit of Yah restricted? Are these his doings? Do not my words do good to him who walks uprightly? Lately my people have risen up as an enemy. Lately. You pull off the robe with the garment. Heck, we read that in Mark. They strip the robe of somebody and they flee naked. What does this mean? From those who trust you as they pass by, like men returned from war. The women of my people you cast out from their pleasant houses, from their children you have taken away my glory forever. Arise and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is defiled, it shall destroy you, yes, with utter destruction. If a man should walk in a false spirit and speak a lie, saying, I will prophesy to you of wine and drink, even he would be the prattler of this people. I will surely assemble all of you, O Jacob, I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. This is where I put in the title. This is in Micah and in other scripture, not just here. I will surely assemble all of you, O Jacob. So Jacob's not obviously just one man, but representing all of Israel. Also, I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. I will put them together like sheep of the fold, like a flock in the midst of their pasture. They shall make a loud noise because of so many people. We read this in Revelation too. This is the gathering, and there's many. And the reason why it's many, as it's been revealed to me, is because it's all a simple thing. It's all the people that were of the Father that ever lived, all at once. And the only way this could be true is that there's a resurrection from the dead. This can't even be true unless there's a resurrection, because many called, few chosen. At no point is there many. There's always few in each generation. But now we read there's so many, because there's a loud noise, because there's so many people. These are the many, those that all the saints that ever lived, Old Covenant, New Covenant saints under Messiah. All of them will be gathered. When? At the end. This hasn't happened yet. They shall make a loud noise because of so many people. The one who breaks open will come up before them. So these teachings in Scripture, I think they're incredibly important to believe and not be deceived by so many out there that are not truly believing or teaching some kind of perversion or lie twisting, because these teachings are in his word. It's a it's really teaching the resurrection of the dead, even literally. Even though there is a spiritual understanding, obviously, to have his spirit is to be alive. But this doesn't take away that there's an actual resurrection. There's two things always, the natural, the spiritual. And so then Messiah is basically teaching from this, with this understanding, the gathering of all the ends of the earth, the ends of the heavens are four corners from everywhere. There's this gathering at the end. It's like it's the resurrection. It's always been taught in scripture, and it's in Micah, and it's in other places. And there we read here in Micah, there's going to be a loud noise because there's so many people. There's so many people because it's all of them that ever lived. That's why. But in one generation, there's not so many people. So that needs to be, rightly seen, divided, because in any given generation, there's like never many of his people. But throughout all generations, there will be many. And they're going to be gathered like sheep are in the fold, like we read. They're going to be saved with salvation finally. So then there's an understanding salvation at the end. Being saved now was saved in the past when someone first believes, needing to be saved because abiding in the vine is continually staying alive, needing to be saved or alive continually. It's all true. All three things are one somehow, no contradictions. But the way they teach these things, or the way I've heard and grown up with, and have even understood or thought I understood coming out of that, is like they take two things and then they fight against each other, and it's not even speaking of the real thing. That being saved is true every day. The moment someone is not on guard, they'll start falling. They'll start dying spiritually. They'll start getting blinded because we read, watch, and pray. So if someone stops doing this, just a matter of a short time before they have a fall of some sort. It's not a joke. The spirit of delay is important for anybody that believes every day. The spirit of, I will do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. That keeps it going. And so then they begin to beat their servants and get drunk with them. The words there, I'm seeing this meaning in spirit. Being drunk, beating your servants, getting drunk with them is the spirit of delay. And it's like Moses delaying on the mountain. He's up on the mountain. This teaching is amazing to me because he's given me this teaching that Moses goes up and he hears from the Father, but like with literal voice. And he's delayed there. And I know it's not over 2,000 years or whatever. That's not the point. When the spiritual understanding of this delay, it applies for each believer. It means something right now for the people down there on the ground. He's delaying. He's dead. So to them, he's dead to them. Just like Messiah is for anybody not a Messiah. The true Messiah is dead to them in their heart. Yeah, some of that in the future, It's kind of just throw it away in the future. And they do this with a lot of doctrine too. The judgment, everything. It's like some distant future only to be understood. And then it's not in their mind for any importance right now. What does it mean right now? If something's in the future and that doctrine's believed in the heart only and carnally only, then what does it mean for them right now? Nothing. It's a pretty big deal, pretty important. But then Moses comes down shining with some kind of glory, and it's the old covenant. And if that shined, how much more will the full glory of what it always represents and means in Messiah now, the new, the good thing, the full thing, the fulfillment, the filling up of the law and everything. So Moses comes back down to the people and finds them what? In a lot of sin, building gods, worshiping other gods, saying, we read Lord there, but saying the Creator's name, but saying Lord. but also having a bunch of other gods. So this isn't, that's rebellion. And we read it, Messiah says, will I find faith on the earth? And this is like a rhetorical question, like Messiah were to come, is he seeing faith or even coming in spirit? Because what we read with Moses, there is something true about Messiah in heaven, judging, the Father judging through Messiah, getting his people out of the world, out of Egypt, as it was back then, but what it really means, getting them out with the heart. And that's being completed, and then whatever follows naturally is what will happen. But now the real coming out of her, my people, coming out of, we know that spiritually Jerusalem is Sodom. Spiritually, we read Jerusalem is Sodom and Egypt. So coming out of Egypt is the same thing as coming out of the harlot houses, because spiritually it's all one, the same heart. The darkness is to come out of Jerusalem, carnal Jerusalem is to come out of Egypt. So coming out of Egypt, Jerusalem is spiritually Sodom and Egypt, like we read in Revelation, but not the true Jerusalem, New Jerusalem, the carnal, the many called, if you will. And then there's the remnant. In Micah, we read the remnant are gathered. They're called the remnant, and Messiah says, many called, few chosen. There's his people, and then there's his remnant. And then there's the unbelievers. There's like three main things, but the two are one, and then the one is set apart from the other. Because the whole world is of the beast, but then the many called are also spiritually of the beast, but they make a show that they're not. And these two are one. The harlot rides the beast. This is the Father's teaching. It's pretty. Is there anything that's not offensive to the one perspective of those who are against him? It's like a whore in scarlet and whorish, like they got with the music videos, enticing, lust. They want you to sin. And this whore rides the beast. And it's, what does this beast do? Well, it's a rough ride. And it's going to buck her off and stab her. It never cared about her. That bull doesn't care about the 8-second rider. Look at it. It's fuming with rage. And if it does, it stabs them right through and pierces them. It's spiritually happening constantly. The world doesn't love the harlot. It's a lie. It's not true. It's only destroying them within. And there's a death, and this death can't be perceived unless someone's alive and growing. You go in the congregation of death, you'll see it. It's strong. You're going to want to come out of there. It's just the truth. That doesn't mean you don't care about the people. That's the very thing that the Father is giving, to care for people, but not to be one and love the evil thing, though. You still need to be set apart. Messiah cares about Judas, but he can't be one with him, period. He doesn't care for what the carnal man and the sin is, cannot just accept it and be as one of the body. Can't be so. So go and do what you do quickly. It is a sad picture, but they've never considered in the harlot that this destruction of many, how much such a sad destruction and death without any hope. How much better will be the mercy then, because of that they don't believe is going to come eventually through judgment. And what about the people that could never walk or never could see even physically? Have they ever considered that maybe he's going to do something we can't even hardly comprehend? That there's a reason why they couldn't walk and see, and maybe they're better off than those who can walk and see physically in the harlot. Ever considered that? I know it doesn't sound like it right now, but that's like the short-sighted unbelief of mankind, nothing to come. Therefore, he sees the lame and the blind, and he's offended and doesn't want to see that, because they're lame and blind spiritually. They don't want to see things like this. The Creator made them that way. They don't believe it. So to hate them and hurt them is, that's messing with the Father himself. He made everyone, forms them, and they say this is some kind of 19 DNA or whatever. They got their numbers and they got their systems, where there's like a little bit of truth in a way, but it's mixed in the pot of the wickedness and lies, and then it's the whole thing's a lie. It's just some magical DNA going on. What makes them think that it's not the creator working right now in real time, that scripture's still true? We read it quite a few times that he forms everyone and fearfully and wonderfully made. It's a strange thing. The creator has fear, proper fear. The fear of the creator is his fear that's given, that we need to have, but it is his fear. They can't see him. He's like perfect. Even having proper fear, even having a fear I can't comprehend, whatever he's given me a little piece of it, but something way greater than whatever I can comprehend. A proper fear and reverence for only doing good and not evil at any time. And then his judgments are also not him doing evil, but giving evil back for evil as a judgment. So then there's that, and then there's those, if we do what's right, they're just true words. If we do what's good, will not his word be good to them then? So you tell people that because it's truth and that's what you want, but we know it's coming from above. But still, those words are true. It needs to be done, There's no games being played. If someone does good with their heart, they'll be blessed right now. Their depression, anxieties, and doubts and fears start melting like wax. Instead of the mountains melting with blood, the other thing starts melting. The bad things start melting. And then at times somebody makes mistakes and they see the negative consequence for it. And then they learn what this sin is a little bit better through that, so that they don't want to do it and agree with the creator that it's no good. And the more someone sees, the more they see his word is true. That's how it's been for me. And the more astonishing it is. Sometimes I'm beside myself that any of this is true at all. Why on earth did he give me anything to see? And I'm looking and I'm seeing, and there's just death everywhere. And they don't see him. They don't care, just like I didn't see or care at all either. Before believing, I didn't have a clue. I didn't care. I couldn't care. It didn't even cross my mind to care. Care about what? Dead man. So then you have to love whatever thing you've been given. Maybe it's dirt bikes, maybe it's making money on YouTube, all this other, whatever someone's thing is. And you're like hooked on that, and that's like it. And you have to keep your mind on something because of the torment from sin. And it's just already true, and they don't realize it, that everyone's being tormented day and night in the presence of the Lamb, even right now. It's a spiritual understanding and thing that's real. So then because this torment is true, people have to do something. And so what everyone's doing is their mind is like, it can't rest. And he says, I swear they shall not enter my rest, those doing evil. But see, then when they teach such a massive lie and they're like, hell, these hard but true things that we're coming to understanding, no mercy to evil itself. And then you see that people have no hope and it's going to be tortured for all eternity with no end. It destroys all the things that are true and good now. It cannot be so then. And then for sin, it cannot be so. It must all be all right. It's no big deal, It does all this. It's destroying people. Because if the Father really did torture everyone for all eternity, and we have the understanding that ultimately his people, whoever they are chosen, and the rest couldn't do anything about it. I mean, this is a sore, evil thing. This is the Father saying, too bad, I don't care about any of them. But because of who he is and his intentions are pure and good, there is a plan all working out for even the unbeliever, but it still is true that he's sovereign and ultimately his people are chosen, but they have to check every day to make sure they're chosen. That's true too. One thing's true, so is the other. Those that don't check, never, well, they'll end up not being chosen. There's an actual care for real things. That's what it's all about. Father showing, teaching. You can't just say words and not care. That's sin. It's going to be real. Yeah, the sovereignty of the Father is true, but it's also true whatever else we read, that they have to compare and check, and seek truth from Him, check themselves to make sure that this is indeed true. That's why with fear and trembling, work out your salvation with fear. Because what if it's not Him working it out? And fear and trembling because it is Him working out the salvation in somebody, the Creator of the heavens and earth, working in fearful thing, fear and trembling. But they always like to stop right there and so often never finish that verse. Why? So they can usually install hell right after it and teach a false fear that we read of in His word that the false prophets do. A false fear of the Lord, a false peace, everything like this. They say fear and trembling and evil, nasty fear. It has nothing to do with what the real fear is. And then cut off that verse, for it is, because it is the Creator working to will in you, Him doing the works. They don't like that. They really don't like that. So they'll try not to say it if they can. Anything that has to do with the Father being sovereign and doing the works, it's in rebellion. It's doing everything. It chooses everything. It's good. What it chooses is good, and it's good because of what it does. That's the rebellion. So then I've seen it so many times for myself. They just stop right there and don't finish the verse and say, because it is. They just, whatever they don't want to see, they don't read. Whatever they don't want to teach the people, they don't teach. Whatever their doctrine is, they need to fit the doctrine, and they will do anything without any care at all to fit that tradition and doctrine. If that means adding, they'll add. If it means taking away, they'll take away. Twisting, they'll twist. And whoever twists the apostles' letters is also already twisting all the rest of Scripture. That's why we read that, because it would be a stumbling block big time with the apostles' letters. It was already happening back then. This doesn't mean that someone in Messiah has the understanding right away. I'm just saying if someone continues to do this, it's evident, without any change ever, without any understanding ever, because what some of the things he says is hard to understand, like we read, that are untaught, unlearned, not fit. They're not seeking the Creator. And so then we see the result of this in reality. Wherever you go, it's like divided divisions, and then saying all kinds of things about him and the letter. It's just going to be true. We're going to see the reality of it. And if they do that, they also are twisting the rest of the Scriptures. Because if you don't care about one thing, it's already doing the other. That's how sin works. It's a judgment. If it really doesn't care about this over here, that it's being punished for. It doesn't care about anything else either. For real, it doesn't. This doesn't mean we'll understand in one day, but there is a love and care for His truth and a reverence for it. And then we want to learn whatever it means and is and true, and not scatter and discord and divide evil. Now, obviously, in a world of division, His people are going to be a division to everybody. It's set apart. It's going to be its own division in there. That's what they'll be called. They can't be called anything else in this world. They'll be accused of what they themselves do over there in the wide gate. That's all it's ever going to be. You can't see anything else if someone's blind. Whatever it does for sin, it will put on His people for everything. I've never seen anything else yet. I've yet to see anybody that hasn't done that around me. That's all we should expect. But forget that. Anybody that loves truth, you put that away. That doesn't bother you forever. It just needs to be so. And when we seek truth, we will receive it, and we'll be in agreement, and we'll see the Father's truth, and we won't be in confusion, which is sin and Babylon, getting us out of confusion. Just because there's 7-something billion people, and it's all doesn't mean there's not a remnant that's coming out of confusion. And because there's so much, people come across and they won't believe it. They're stunned. I've seen it all the time. And the most will just walk away. They'll just attack it as an evil thing. That just needs to be so. These teachings always have been in his word, even simply said that. I think in Micah 3, maybe I'll read it too. Micah 2 and then 3. What the false prophets do. Everything is being seen from the Father's truth and sight, and not from the lens and eyes of the blind, because it'll never be in agreement. So when the Father is saying their teachers like wisdom shall depart from them, they don't think so. But he's talking about something real for his people to see. Yes, it has departed from them. It's not there, it's void. But from the world's eyes and lens, never going to agree with whatever the truth is. How could it? It's an enmity. And the apostle does say something about shout, Messiah, the master. We read Lord there, of course, but it comes with the shout. But that's not just for Messiah, it's for all his people. It's going to be a loud noise because of so many people. Messiah comes at the last trumpet, a loud shout. But who believes it for real? And I'm saying, and I believe, and I see in spirit that it must not be that far off. My goodness, the way you have to start seeing prophecy, however the Father to give us to see it. We start seeing the spiritual wickedness. It's gotten worse and it's growing, and it's like it's exactly what we read that it would be. It just waxed worse and worse, and it's worse now than it's ever been. I mean, it's bad. The lawlessness in the heart is bad. The selfishness is even worse because of Facebook and YouTube and all this thing being used like that for self only. Doesn't care, doesn't want to give freely. It's an abomination to the carnal man to give without any carnal benefit or reward. But they don't realize that it's destroying them. This carnal benefit and reward is worthless. So then all his people should be happy to get carnal hurt, because that's how they get rewarded for real. If they get carnal gain and benefit, they're going to be destroyed. And he can zap someone's life just like that. Boom, drop dead. It's a dead man walking now with no faith, no hope. They don't understand what's going on. He's in control. He is the king of the earth. And he's made Messiah to be King of Kings. But he is the king, the creator. He's the owner of the field and the air. Messiah is the King of Kings. And he comes and they stone him. What will the owner of the field do to those servants? And the servants that hate Messiah answered rightly, not understanding they're talking about themselves. He will utterly destroy those wicked. And then when Messiah responds, they realize the parable was against them, and they wanted to seize him and destroy him. That's being blind. They're proving it. Messiah never did this. He never tried to catch someone to destroy them, and they did it right in front of him multiple times. He knows how many times, proving that they are those of that parable that killed the prophets of old, stoned them. We have to understand that this stoning is happening spiritually, though. Although the enemy would like to destroy someone utterly. I mean, the prophecy is correct and true 100% all the time, everywhere, when the spiritual thing is understood. A little restraint for the beast to go and do exactly what it wants, which is literally kill Abel, you know, utterly kill him. But the murder is in the heart. The blood in Revelation is in the heart. And there have been many wars and literal blood too, but the understanding is in the heart. Someone murders you and does evil and looks at you like you're a pile of dung and walks away from you. That's about as murderous as it gets. They have zero care and love for you, and they murdered you, and you are as good as dead. That's what real murder is. Might as well be dead to them. And to the many called, Messiah is dead to them, sadly. It doesn't matter what they say, what the cover is. None of that matters. What the heart's doing is what it matters. And that's what they're blinded from to see. The heart's intention and thoughts. They think nobody can see theirs. The Father sees it all, and he's given his people to see it. As Messiah saw, we must also see it. He saw their thoughts, like we read. He saw their heart, what they're thinking. It's one spirit testing and discerning the spirits. They don't believe those verses all of a sudden when it comes to real belief of what that really means. And they get angry. But in the church world, somehow the false prophet can read that verse and they're happy. It's the strangest thing. Some kind of divination going on, some sorcery. That's what it must be. That's what it is. Nothing else even makes sense unless it's some kind of spiritual sorcery. So what is this sorcery? It's in spirit. The false prophet within is casting it on them and wants it on them so he can control them. That's not love. Now, is there any proof in the court? No, not on the earthly court, but in the heavenly court it's seen. Because all he has to say is, what are you talking about? My cover is working. Can't you see me smiling and speaking smooth words? I'm the leader of religion. And I do good works. I even show how many good works I do daily. All my good works, charities, and merchandise we sell too. And all these other things. He's banking on his cover. That's what's proven in court. Okay, let him go. Release Barnabas, kill Messiah. They're not getting away with it, though. They're dead in there. They have no faith or hope at all. Zero. Zapped. They can claim they do to protect their image out of pride. We're talking only about real things, not what they say. It's hopeless. It mocks a real creator that exists for real, is authority and overall and sovereign. But it can say words that sound like God exists through a false prophet, a delusion and sorcery. It can say all that. Does it believe the very words they say? You know, that's the question. When we talk about what sin is, all of a sudden they get angry every single time. I've not seen anything else. To hate the Creator's way is to hate the Creator. To hate his commandments in the heart, when we speak about sin, real sin, is to hate his way. Obviously, they must not know him at all, to hate it viciously. I don't love money, but then reality, it loves money. Seeking it every day more and more, never content. I couldn't see any of these things long ago. You can't see how true his word is until he starts showing you. Then it's amazing how true it is for everyone that doesn't want to do his will, doesn't know him. There is no content possible. This is how authority and powerful his word is. For anyone that's not of the Father, they are not able to be content for real in their heart. So it's like a constant slave driving for Satan's beastly kingdoms and whatever, with its desire in that. And it's never satisfied. It's never satisfied. What have I seen in real life, even face to face with different peoples? When it sees actual content, it mocks it. But 2 days ago, it's talking about being content in church. Nonsense. When it sees content, it spits on it because it never actually believed or thought it existed for real. Thought you were just like everyone else, masquerading and marked like a devil. And the more he gives, the crazier it sounds that one marked person sees something about another. And if you're not marked, they will see it as an enemy. Something's wrong. They're not marked. Sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy. It's not crazy. It's true. But we read that so we have a nice picture and understanding when the Father gives the understanding of Cain being marked, so that he's not accepting someone to go kill the guy that killed the guy. He doesn't accept that. Whoever kills Cain, I don't accept this wickedness. Go and kill the bad guys. Will sevenfold be judged. See, so then a devil knows something about this, but it doesn't mean they never do it. But it's a little bit of restraint, naturally speaking, not spiritually. Nothing's restraining the wickedness in the heart. But naturally, if it kills someone like this, another guy, there's a little bit of, worry for selfish, but it's a little bit of restraint. And if someone does kill a bad guy, look what happens to them every single time. They become butchers, and eventually they suicide or are caught and destroyed. It's not a good life. Not to mention zero faith and hope. They're literally become insane. It's like even a protection. So it seems like it's no problem. Yes, they don't have a conscience. They'll smile and laugh after killing 20 people. But they're in destruction, and they've gone mental, but they call it mental illness and anything but sin, anything but his judgment, anything but the spirit being destroyed because of sin, full of foul spirits, unclean. Why is America and all the other, not just America, but this is where I live anyway, so much disease and mental illness growing, and it's like even naturally getting worse because of sin. And they're trying to do everything they can except acknowledge sin to fix the problem, to fix cancer, to fix this or that, apart from repentance. It's not going to be accepted. It's not accepted in the heart. They're not seeing that that's what it's ultimately. His judgments are past finding out every little detail for everyone. It's not our job to do that. It's too massive. It's an impossible undertaking. But we could start seeing the judgments though for self and start learning about why bad things happen because of his judgment. There is no such thing as going out and killing somebody and then they got away. That's laughable mockery. They never will get away. It's already over the moment they do it. It's over. And they show it on the when it's a little more realistic and not a bunch of clowns Lord that just shot 7 people and was like, light up the cigar. That's not reality. I mean, maybe to some degree, like someone that's utterly insane, but like smiling and joking and having a good time and finding a woman and everything's all good now after killing a bunch of people. But in the little more realistic movie, someone kills someone for the first time and they got to get the bottle and they got to justify it. He deserved it. He had what he coming. He had that coming for him. Yes, he did. And it's an instant destruction. That's reality. It's instant destruction for adultery. Must be the same. Same in that the judgment hits somebody and it will work itself out and it won't be good for the person. So then when someone were to commit adultery with a man, with a woman, she destroys him and knows something about it. If she can get him to do that, it's over. Now I'll use him to make money, status, fame, whatever. This is evil. That's why the virtuous woman is like a giant ruby, because it's so rare. And then this wisdom is like personified as a woman and wisdom, but yet it's also true. 1,000 men I have found one, but of a woman have not found. It's a rare thing, a virtuous woman. But they can talk about virtuous woman in the church world, and all I can say is my experience has been negative, very bad. They attack, but they'll never acknowledge they attack. They'll just pretend as if it never happened. So they want you to believe you're crazy. They want to try to make you look like you're crazy because they're putting their sin on you. They're crazy. Now they have to make you look like crazy. They have no choice. They have to pour out their folly and dump it on someone else, because right in that moment they're being punished by the Creator for doing evil. So they're desperate to dump their sin on someone else. It cannot look at its own heart and say, I'm a sinner and did evil. No, it can't. As long as it doesn't have the Father Spirit, it can't. And Adam blames Eve and Eve blames the serpent. Even though there's something true about all of it, the blame is no good. It's putting it on, it's justifying its sin. You gave me the woman, she gave it to me. Now I can admit I did this. See, kind of sound like it, but it was a loophole. I never repented right in that moment. So there's very sneaky, clever ways that man's doing this constantly. And when you start seeing it, it's nasty everywhere. It's sick everywhere. Behind the camera, actors, popular people start seeing their folly poured out like you've never seen before. You start seeing the cowardness and crouching and ducking spiritually. It's a coward. It can never say what's really going on when it does some kind of evil in its heart. It's got to justify it and cover it. It's afraid of its image and name being exposed as looking bad. That's the only thing someone would care about, which is a nasty thing, because if someone's doing that, they don't have actual care or care about whatever's real. You can't do the one thing and also do the other. It's impossible. Whoever cares about their image and name like that forever is also not caring at all about whatever is good and true from above. Blessed is the one that's name is trashed and rebuked and, reviled and excluded for his name's sake. Now, all of a sudden, when we start reading Messiah's words there and connecting it to this truth, it's not liked at all. It's despised. Every word is despised. When truth and clarity and from above is given, then you connect the verse to it. There's no blessings for those that their name is not being trashed and reviled and excluded on purpose, murdering, hating, while they smile and pretend to love you while they do all these things too. Nothing's nastier. Why is it smiling and pretending to like someone while it does all this evil? Because it can't acknowledge what it actually is and it's doing. It needs to masquerade and be a coward and project the image of the beast like anybody else. It's shocking. It's astonishing. It's not doing good. It's not wise. It's a coward and fearful in an evil way. And the fear they teach in the church world is wicked, and it's carnal fear. Nasty. Do this because I'll burn you forever. I'll destroy you, like slash you forever, That's not who the Father is. That's abomination. That's not righteous judgment. That's not seeing it the way it needs to be seeing. And yet it still is true for sin. He will rightly judge, but that's not who the Father is. They can't see that. That's evil. That's the devil. That's the devil that bribes, blackmails, do this or else while my teeth are grinding, They do this all the time, blackmailing people, and then they smile in the movies, right? Because they do that in real life. You got someone cornered. Why? Because their name and image will be exposed. This is blackmailing, using their weakness and sin, punishment, judgments because it cares about its image desperately, then you could blackmail someone knowing something about that. You do this or else your name is trashed. You know, the great thing about being out of prison is go ahead, trash it. Trash it and be destroyed while his people are lifted up. You know, nothing the devil hates more. The very thing they use to control and destroy people is not even possible when someone's doing the Father's will on them. Bring it on. You know, basically saying it out of truth, not some kind of carnal thing. They're happy. They can read it. They're happy when they're trashed, when they start learning and growing and doing this properly. They're happy. When nobody's around, they're happy all by themselves that their name got trashed for his name's sake and their image trashed. They can read it in the church world. Now they don't believe it. They can't believe what they've never done or experienced. It's not even comprehensible at all. Zero. It's a devil, a snake, and a hypocrite. You know? It's just true. The Messiah said this of them, and all its followers were the same, because a blind leader leads the blind, and all of them fall in the ditch. If it's a snake for a leader, all its followers are snakes. And like we read, if a leader is lying, if a leader hears lies, meaning accepting, hearing, listening in the heart, accepting, and not saying, you know, doesn't care, all its followers will become wicked. It's already true. No one will ever prove the Father wrong. If someone is lying as a leader, all its hearers and followers are wicked. So then if there is somebody righteous, they won't be there. Off they go. They need to be set apart. Of course, when someone's not seeing what real sin is, it's an abomination to come out of her, my people. It's extraordinarily evil and offensive. And the more someone sees what sin is, the more they'll understand that it is a bunch of evil for real going on in the hearts of the many. It's not good in there. It's full of plagues and diseases. You read that. Come out of her lest you partake of her plagues. Oh, that means in the future, some carnal thing. You know, I didn't understand this properly, but this is what their understanding is forever. No, these plagues are real. They're spiritual plagues. And if you do this thing, don't come out of there. It's plagued, period. So if people don't want to be plagued, come out of there. Be separate. Separate yourself from the unclean thing, and he will receive you. It's true words. Anyone that does this, it's true for them. Your spiritual plagues, and this is true every day. This prophecy and truth is valuable and true every day. It's not just something to come in the distant future carnally, frogs in the church buildings, blood in the waters, you know, that's the understanding. In some distant future, some carnal, you know. No. Well, that means Messiah's coming is going to be like a thief in the night, because all their signs and carnal understandings of Revelation have nothing to do with what it means. It truly will be like a thief in the night. He's already come like a thief in the night, as unbelief. And to anyone that's in the church world with plagues, they think they're first, they'll be last. That's like being caught like a thief in the night. Whoever are first of the Father, they're last to those people. They're the dogs and sorcerers and wicked. It's backwards. Whoever the first are, they're the last. You know, and the last shall be first. Yes, it's good to be last in this world. It's good to be a fool in this world. They will see you as last and stupid, and a fool will know them as stupid and fool. They think they know. That's the difference. And one understanding some carnal thing, and the other with knowledge is spiritual. It's never spiritual for the carnal man. It thinks it knows, and it's only carnal, whatever it can comprehend. because the natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of the Father. So then all things word, his word is spirit. If it doesn't receive spirit things from the Father, it understands none of his word, because all his word is spirit. Then someone that doesn't understand this or care, what do? They teach it as some kind of carnal thing, like I've heard it done, even by people I know. His word is spirit, yes. It means his letters, they're trying to say, is spirit. It's a weird thing. Has nothing to do with what it means, because they can't comprehend the real thing. They replace it with carnal thing. It's sounding like it's right. It's incredible. With words, it kind of sounds like it's knowledgeable and like spiritual. But then when you hear and start seeing and discerning it, it's actual understanding of those words. You start seeing it some kind of carnal thing that has nothing to do with, just like hell. First of all, it doesn't care. It's not, those spirit can't care about his truth and his word. But then second of all, or first, it doesn't really matter. It's all true. It'll defend hell, but it doesn't care itself or believe that it's going there, or everybody else except me. Just some doctrine to make it for its own pleasure and like carnal goodness, lust. It whatever the heart is and believes, it just creates doctrine that's according to what the heart really believes. If it's in a problem, adultery, it finds the scriptures in a delusion wanting to believe that allow for adultery. That's wickedness. That's what it will do, though. It already does. If it's finding homosexual, it will find the scriptures and be blind about it and justify homosexuality because it's fitting and creating doctrine according to its heart. That's the only thing it's able to do. That's why it's so divided. And then like one child denomination's fighting and attacking another, and they're talking about delusions. Letters. Who's the most right doctrines? There's no meat. There's nothing deeper. It's like real shallow. It's carnal. It's amazing to start seeing it, because I know there's like nothing that I've learned from him that isn't offensive to the carnal man. But if I weren't to say anything, I would never say anything that's true at all. Keep quiet so that you don't have any persecution or tribulation or people hating. That's all I know. If I don't ever speak what I know, then I never speak at all. Zero. That's what they want. Well, yeah, it's what they want, but they themselves don't practice that, so they end up being hypocritical judgment. It's crazy when you start seeing hypocrisy, when that starts growing to see what it is. It becomes simple, but it becomes amazing. How could we not see it before at all? My goodness, it's real bad. Blind, that's how. But it's like hard to believe how blind, man. How do we not see? It's like a given for every believer, how blind they were. They see they were utterly blind. They don't believe that in their heart that they were literally, utterly blind in there. No, they don't. But they can say the words. They can say those words. Here's how someone can say those words. Yeah, I was blind, now I see. Because when it says those words, it doesn't have the actual understanding. It can't actually see. Therefore, it's not blind in reality in its own heart. It has no comparison. It's blind while it's saying it. But it says it because it's smooth words and it sounds good to look good for the image. That's it. Someone that's still blind can't see still, so they never see what blind is. That's how they can say it, and people clap. They don't actually believe they're literally blind and can see nothing. They don't believe that for themselves. You have to dig a little to get to see that someone doesn't believe that, though. because right on the surface they'll say whatever they can to make it sound like they understand and know anything and everything, because they have to protect their image. They cannot not know anything. So if you're speaking of things that they have no clue, they have to quickly try to say the right words, and the devil just knows how to do it to make it sound like they understand, and they have no clue. It's nasty. It's all it can do. Everyone's already doing it that's not of him. It makes itself masquerade and look like it knows when it doesn't. It's lying and it's deceiving its own self. Yeah, I understand. They just casually say they understand what took years to understand. You could see there's no understanding. And yeah, I understand. While it never sought after the Creator a day in its life, it casually understands deep things. And then when they do their works, they break what they say because they don't understand it. Then we see those works. Oh, yeah, they don't understand. They just broke this thing with their heart. They just did evil without ever acknowledging it or seeing or caring. So then it only said those words to try to look good. That's it. The works from the heart prove it. So then the words are only good if they're right words. If it's actually understanding and wanting and doing, learning and doing for real. The doer of the law shall be justified, not the hearer only. That is true teaching. This teaching is not through carnality and working of self, but it's true nevertheless. Those of the Father are starting to keep his laws. The doer of the law is justified. It's true. Not through carnal Jerusalem, it's true. The doer of carnal man's traditions and man's carnal understanding of laws, not through that understanding. If that were so, then Jerusalem wouldn't be destroyed. Then the apostle kept the law. Says he kept it according to the law, perfect, zealous, learned, studied. What good was it? Zero. By itself, when he starts getting actual truth and understanding Messiah in him. Now sort of that carnal thing is used for good now, memory of the scriptures or whatever, but by itself it was no good. He doesn't know what murder is. He's going to murder Messiah's own people. It's a pretty big sin for being perfect and zealous for the law and being perfect in it. He's murdering in his heart specifically, and stealing and robbing and envying. So in a way, the law kind of sounds like it's no good compared to the true thing. And then in another sense, that is the thing we're speaking of, and it is good. Because there's like the natural, and then there's the spiritual. There's the carnal, and then there's the heavenly. And the lawlessness Messiah speaks of is heavenly in the heart. The lawlessness that someone should have a proper fear for is, I never knew you. You're worker of lawlessness in the heart. Because Messiah is not speaking carnally as Moses, with letters and stone only. He's speaking from the heart. He knows. He lived it. He fulfilled it. And there was something very much lacking. The very only good, real thing, the heart. He fulfilled the law in that it's not just the letters and looking good and words like carnal religion does. Now it's taking these words and what they really mean and living it in the heart. Now the two become one, and now they're good. Without the heart, it's worthless. This is like the circumcision of the flesh, circumcision of the heart. The heart, it's cutting off that wicked heart. You cut off. But the flesh is like cutting off flesh, natural, to look right. It's only right to look right if the heart's actually looking right in the heart. And there's a difference between those things. So then it's so easy and possible to be prideful and carnal, steaming with self-righteousness, I don't murder people, I don't lie, so it thinks. And it's doing all those things in the heart still while it's sort of looking like it's keeping the commandments. This is a deception, man. It's a big deception. But it's gotten so bad where they just don't even care at all. They don't even. We nailed the law. The problem was the law, not us. That's not the man getting nailed to stake, the serpent on the rod, the carnal man, the flesh. The law was the problem. No, the problem was man, unable to keep it. Therefore, it condemns him and he's in death. Anything but self, right? In the church world, it's anything but self being the problem. And when I say self, I mean in the heart, a real belief that self is the problem. And so when someone, they can never be humble then if self is not the problem. They can never believe in their heart they're no good and fulfill his word daily, growing but fulfilling his word, which is for someone that believes. They'll see that they're doing what they read and they'll be happy to see it. It's like just for them. The Father's teaching them, showing them, just for them. And they won't be confused about the things they receive that they ask for, so that they're not confused about it. The carnal man already knows everything concerning his truth in the heart. He's not asking, he already knows. That's what we speak of. But carnally in this world, it learns, grows things it doesn't know. But when it comes to like real things of the heart, sin, it already knows everything. Its works prove it constantly proving that it knows something. The only way to know is through not knowing, through acknowledging it. And so we won't be confused about this title right here, about these scriptures. But there's many deceivers that would like to destroy whatever is true and good. We'll let them do what they do. They'll do it anyways. But for those in Messiah, they won't be confused about this. They're not going to be confused about the world getting better and better until man and his religions and divisions cause peace on earth. It's never done so. It never will. And yes, praise the Creator that it never will. It's an abomination, that sight. When they say peace, destruction comes, because it's not what we read in Micah. It's when they say peace, their teeth are, what do I read? They're like, it's like walls. It's like showing the heart, though. It's not a real peace. It's not the proper peace. And yet we could say all of this, and I fully believe, persuaded, there is hope for everyone. So it's like a strange thing to the world. How could you speak what seems strongly against sin? Seems like you hate everyone. That's the constant accusation. And yet they're the ones who teach that everyone's going to be brutally murdered and tortured for all eternity, and we don't. It's amazingly backwards. It's sick. But we're speaking of whatever is true. If someone's doing certain sins, big sins, it's a problem. It's going to be destruction. What do they want us to do? Lie? Someone wants to go and commit adultery, okay? It's going to be destruction, and that person is an enemy of the Creator. What do they want us to do? Lie? It doesn't mean there's no hope for them forever. Just no hope for them right now, as long as they don't believe. The Father's intention is to work all the evil out. And then all the people that said they would not bow, Joseph's brothers, will bow. Yes, they will. Stubborn little children. It's even funny. There's some humor to it. Oh, we're not bowing. This is blasphemy. Joseph, young brother, one of the youngest, we're going to bow to you. And then what is it, Jacob? He didn't like it either initially, but he considered it. He remembered it. Okay, I don't know. What is this thing? and then he thinks he's dead for a long time. Sad situation in real life going on, and the brothers ditch him. It's murder. They murdered him. You can't do that without a murderous, cold heart. But one of them says, let's not kill him right here. Let's just leave him be and then just go away. But it's still a murder, instead of like making sure he's dead right away. What really happened here is the father, through one of them, protected Joseph. But in that person's mind, he thinks it's his own idea. And it's actually to spare Joseph. That's why the person came up with that idea. One of the brothers. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's how he works. They can't even comprehend that. But then in the end, we read when they do bow, what they said they would never do, they did. A little bit blind, huh? And then they bowed and it all became good. And he says, all of this that he did, the Father's intention was so that you can be filled and not starve and to death. To heal them, give them life. Literal food here, The point is the intention is a good intention so that someone's not going to be in death forever and starve forever, hungry and thirsty forever. They think he won't do this with people. How come nobody in the church world's teaching this? They're teaching the gospel, all right, the gospel of death, eternal darkness and death forever, except for themselves. But in reality, it's in eternal darkness and death right now. It's why it's being taught. But it tries to put its sin on everyone else and try to hide that it's not in death, try to hide that it's not in darkness. But in the bathroom all alone, it's miserable, wretched, poor, blind, and naked. In the shower, it's mourning inside, but when it goes outside, it smiles and waves. It's quite the deception going on, playing out. So many people. But the life we speak of, the Father, it's not a deception. They have life within them, but they sort of become stern so many times on the outside, and people will judge it wickedly, and they have no clue what's going on because it's a constant tribulation and a testing and overcoming sin and caring about all these things and seeing so much death and hatred and confusion. It's not exactly time to rejoice for all the death going around. Why don't you smile more? They wouldn't be smiling either if they were an actual sheep and 5,000 wolves encamped and circled around them. What do you mean smile more? It doesn't mean that they don't have life within. It's just not much to smile about so many times when it's around a bunch of wolves. It's not funny. The wolf's going, see it. It's looking at you like that. And then they say, smile, man. Come on, smile, man. Is something wrong? You doing good? How you doing, man? Just okay. You're not doing great today, huh? Speak for yourself. Carnal wicked. It's talking about itself. You can't say that, though. You can't correct the fool. So don't even try. I failed. Learned from it. Now I'm keeping it in mind not to try to correct someone's heart because it won't work. You just wait on what the Father says, whether to speak or not to speak. Then we'll fulfill his word on this or that when the Father tells us what to do and how to do it. How come they don't want to do this? Because they want it to be their knowledge so they can boast. That's why. Boast in others' flesh. When you command someone to do something, do this right now. And then when they do it, it's like, oh, I like you, you're a good person. You obeyed me. Then it boasts in someone's flesh by commanding carnal commandments, with no understanding. Not that his commandments are carnal, but it's not, it's out of carnality commanding what it's not understanding. So then I don't believe his people are going around smiling all the time. But then if they were smiling, people would want your smile wiped off your face. They don't want to see that, because when the smile is there, it's a real smile. It's not a deception. Then they see something about this smile as like a smiling. It's not a deception. It's real inside too. Then they don't like it. But then they tell you to smile more. They're screwed if you do, screwed if you don't. They don't like smile. They don't like his people smiling, and then they ask them to smile when they're not smiling, because they're only wanting to attack and kill and destroy constantly. That's it. That's all that's on their mind. While it masquerades as looking good and caring, but it's doing this in reality, thinking nobody sees. And we read so many times the Father's judgment is, you shall walk in the darkness. You'll be like drunken people, and the sun will go down on you, prophets, for the prophets, Micah, I think here. And you'll be in darkness. Something about that's true. It means you can't see. What is it that they're not seeing? Everything that's important and good. It's not, this prophecy is, the understanding for this prophecy is not the literal sun goes down and now it's dark on the harlot and the false prophets, and now they can't see with their physical eyes. It's not the understanding. It's never been the understanding and meaning. They have eyes, but they can't see. They have ears, but they can't hear what the Spirit is saying to the ecclesia, to the assembly. There's no such thing as churches, as it is from this, in and of this world. That word assembly and ecclesia is the Father's people and his way and his things only, not religion. That's the replacement. It's the congregation of the wicked in the harlot houses, where there's many plagues, where he says, come out of her. What does that mean for them? Come out of her, to the harlot itself. Come out of her. Anything but the truth, because it can't deny itself, can it? Come out of ourselves. The false prophet's going to go behind the pulpit and say, come out of her, my people. Okay, go away from me. This is wicked. No, it can't do that. It's got to be anything but the truth, because it's a living example of breaking it. It can never deny itself. What the very thing it needs to do. Messiah denied himself. Suddenly that word hits you with power and meaning. No, it's like that with all his word. Denying self, it can't deny itself. That's not good. That's bad for the image. It's bad for the name. Looks bad. People trample on me. I want to have a lot of friends, good status, and not be trampled on by the, oh, I've heard of your way. I remember something about it long ago. Your way is no good. You're not going to make it. And it's bad. People won't like you. It's an evil way. It's sad when you hear it. It's like they're speaking of the narrow way. Maybe most of them know something about it. They don't want to be reminded that they walked away. So then it wants to hear smooth words, like oil smooth from the lips of the prophets, telling them what they want to hear. And if they don't hear what they want to hear exactly, they'll go until they do. That's not seeking the Creator's counsel. Saying, what is it that I need to hear no matter what? Forget myself. What is it that I need to hear? No, it hops around until it gets what it wants to hear, instead of reasoning Let's reason together in the church world building with the false prophets. That's not reasoning with the Father. But how do they understand what they can't see? And when we start speaking about these real things that we believe, reason with who? Are you talking to your ghost buddy? I thought you just spoke of Jesus the other day, and now you're mocking that he even exists? Pretty scary, man. They slipped up a little bit. They weren't supposed to do that. But they pull out their folly and can't even help it so many times. Kingdoms. Jerusalem wasn't a kingdom, and then it growls at you. Why'd you growl? What do you mean I didn't growl? It slipped up. It poured out its folly. It wasn't supposed to do that. Oh, they never believed in the Creator and kingdoms, and that Jerusalem is a kingdom, New Jerusalem is a kingdom, and the kingdom to come. The spirit of the devil doesn't believe in the kingdom of heaven. It cannot. And they slipped up and revealed who they were, a wolf. But did a pretty good job masquerading until that point, right? Creeping in unnoticed, believing in the heart it's of his people, and it's not in the happens to the disciples. They think Judas is one of them. In the end, they find out afterwards that he's not. They didn't know. Messiah knew. The one I dipped the bread, they didn't understand. They thought he's going out to help people now. No, that wasn't the dipping the bread to God. He's going out to destruction. It's Judas. They didn't know. And then he says, one of you with authority and clarity will betray me. And all of them are sad. Oh, is it me? Is it me? I hope it's not. I wouldn't want to do this. And then it was, Judas. Well, we read this just as a cute story. It's never going to happen in someone's life as a believer, right? Never going to happen. That's the power and sovereignty of the Father. They didn't know. So his people, when it happens, they also didn't know in that moment until a little later. It's a sour thing when it happens too. And then you look back and you see different spiritual things that were always there. Spirit of control. A lot of control, anger. Somehow saying all the right words most of the time. And that's the trick. That is nasty that you can have so much knowledge and still not be of the Father. And that's why we read that. We wouldn't read if someone has a bunch of knowledge and all mystery, but no love. They don't have the Father. They don't have the Spirit. Oh, but this is never possible. This isn't possible. This never happens to anybody. But we're reading if as a situation like the world does, what ifs, what if did this. There's no such thing as what if. It either will happen like this or it won't. You can't go back and change it. So we read that because it's true sometimes for some people. They'll come across them then. Well, in a way, for all those that are not of the Father, they love some kind of looking for loving knowledge, but you can really look like maybe even a believer with knowledge, and then there's no love. This is a sour, horrible thing. And without knowledge, his people are destroyed. Both are true. You need his knowledge, and you can't just be about knowledge. You have to do the right thing somehow, right down the middle. And it's like that with how many things that are like that, just like that. There's two things, and they both are true and don't contradict. but the world can't see the two things that without just not seeing it. Rightly dividing between the word of truth. That doesn't mean what carnal man thinks that means. It's about his spiritual things, spiritual reality, and things of the heart, rightly dividing. Because if it's not rightly dividing, it will contradict and do evil works. That simple. If someone doesn't have the actual knowledge, how can they do the works properly with their heart? They can't. It's a strange experience. Just randomly say something about Jerusalem being a kingdom and then it's rejected. What's going on here? What do you mean? That's what he can read it. They can read it. You give some verses that say it plainly, even Messiah's own words. Your kingdom will be taken from you and be handed over to the Gentiles, to the nations. Speaking of carnal Jerusalem, and then the Gentiles are going to produce the fruit of it, an abomination to Jerusalem, because they'll be grafted in and they'll be the Father's people. The very thing that's considered an abomination will do the good works. Flips the table on them. Your kingdom will be taken from you. You give the verses, and then you find out someone does as they claim the church will does. Pretty scary, you know. It didn't exist. No answer, no reply, doesn't want to speak about it, nothing, zero. And this could be about anything. You find it's not a good sign. So some are easier to spot, and some are like, they're like almost made just to try to deceive the elect, because to try to trick the elect for a little time, you have to start getting looking more like them, because it's going to take more to be the elect to be deceived the more they grow. And so there's like false prophets out there that sort of look more like the right thing with knowledge, and they have like this false more power to deceive the elect. But ultimately whoever the elect are taken utterly, but they get close. Who knows how many times over life. If it were possible to deceive even the elect, and then we read that the righteous are scarcely saved. It's like they just barely make it. Isn't that being taught with the bowl of the oil and the lamps? Is it sounds selfish and pride? We can't give our oil to you. We won't have enough to get through the night ourselves. What if that's just simply true? Does the carnal man ever consider that they need it? And that's why we read that in the parable. We got just enough to get through the night ourselves, and you guys want to steal it. How come you don't want to do it the right way? The 5 foolish virgins. That's like just barely making it through the night, isn't it? Scarcely saved. And the oil burns in the night. Something about burning is true. It's like decreasing and it's burning. It's hurting a little bit. So when darkness comes to a believer, which it will, then their light needs to go on, and it's going to burn. It's going to get darker. It's like the sunset. Where'd the Creator go? Come back. Come back. No, you have to, what are you going to do now? Too bad. This is how you'll grow. And then finally the sun rises again, and you don't need your lamp, and you just barely make it through the night. Must sound like insane foolishness to unbelievers. And then I had no clue about any of this. The first few years even couldn't see it. And then that what it's required to understand this? No, it's not. They just need to believe. That's all. Then they'll learn. And that's evidence that they are a believer if they keep learning, growing, and carrying it, overcoming. The baby doesn't understand anything on day one. It's okay because it's true. It's not okay to not grow, though. It's like saying, I don't know, some kind of machine, and it's pretty complex. Here, baby, you should know this. It requires you to know this to be what I am, 50, 60 years old. And if you don't, you're damned. And the baby's just going, wah. He doesn't even comprehend anything. That's evil. And so the great thing about Father's wisdom that he gives is that there's an answer for everything, and it will make them stupid, and it will expose it as a contradicting law. They can try to say that all they want, or anybody doing that. And yet at the same time, it's not a teaching for not growing, like license to sin kind of thing. Though two things are both true, somehow both true. Walk right down the middle, not fall to the left or right. So that's an amazing parable. And it's also teaching, not that the letters teach it, but when you read the words, then the Father says this is what this means. Then you can speak about these words and parables in his word. That the 5 foolish virgins try to masquerade and look like the 5 wise, but they don't have oil. That's the difference. Pretty much the same on the outside, though. Pretty close. That's the point. They don't have oil. So when darkness comes, they're in darkness. It's a desperate situation spiritually. What are they going to do in real life? What is this parable? They want to take your life, spiritually speaking, attacking. They want to attack, destroy, and take your life. They're hungry and thirsty and void because the Father's word is true. They don't seek, they're not hungry and thirsty for righteousness, the only way to be filled. So they want to take it, steal it through destroying, just like a lion, hungry today. So it crouches and lies in wait to eat the flesh of his people. It says, you eat my people. You read that. They eat his people. They want to crouch like a lioness, like a lion, and then jump and plunder them and then devour the life because it's hungry. And while it's eating, it's pretty darn satisfied. It doesn't look distressed while it's doing evil. Ever watch a lion chew on the meat? It's pretty darn at peace for doing evil. It's a nasty thing to see when someone does evil with their heart. They're quite pleased to do it. It doesn't mean they're not being judged, though. They're being judged. Remember, they have to masquerade constantly to show how good they're doing. That's prison and slavery. But inside, it's rotting, and the bones are collapsing, and the strength is falling. And it's blind, and it's teaching lies and believing lies, and it's in delusion, it's in confusion, it loves abomination, it loves worthlessness. None of this is any good. I think someone should read all of Micah chapters. They're not very long. But if they haven't in a while, maybe fresh. Because there's some powerful scripture prophecies in there about these things and the false prophets teaching lies for money and teaching for pay. They can make all the excuses till they're a smurf in the face, but that someone doing that's evil. That's why the apostle says we're not as so many that corrupt or sell or corrupt. It's like one and the same thing. The word of truth. So many. for profit, because it's in his word, it's a teaching. The false prophets do. And when that's the intention, it's corrupt. It doesn't care about even what it's doing. It's doing it for the money. It's a judgment. It's a spiritual fact. It can't care about its own actual thing. Once this corruption sets in, it's only doing it for the money now. It wouldn't even do it if you cut off all money and worship from the people. It would just disappear, it would die, probably suicide. That's all it's living off of is corruption. It'd be a spiritual suicide, but it already is. Because isn't piercing someone right through their own gut with their own sword a suicide? They pierce themselves through with many sorrows, then they have to pretend they're doing good all the time. Loving money is a suicide mission because of all the things it's connected to. That's sin, all kinds of things. It's a suicide mission. And it's hard, impossible for the carnal man to believe how on earth is there a way to not actually love money in the heart and chase it and become somebody and always want attention out of insecurity, doing God works, all that. You can't see how it ever could live not doing these things. It doesn't see a way. It's crooked. The Father made it crooked. He makes the way straight for those that ask, those that want it. This is true. For those that don't ask, it's always crooked. This is also true. What's to stop someone from asking? And it's an amazing thing because you can say these things directly and watch people walk away. They cannot ask for some strange reason, wanting them to. Are they afraid that they might receive an answer somewhere deep down inside? Careful what you wish for, ask for. Afraid of receiving good. And then all the things that have happened before, they happen again and again in nations through sin. So famines, destruction, confusion, divisions increasing. And I'm wondering now if this is just the beginning of like a literal famine to come. It's like being sprinkled as like a warning sign. Maybe it's not so far out. There's just a weird thing. These things always have happened in the past. It's like his word is always true. But there's a spiritual famine to be understood, though. That's the important thing. But then famines have happened many times. It happened to Jerusalem before it got destroyed, carnal Jerusalem. 70 AD, they ate their own kids, some of them, because they fulfilled Deuteronomy. A Roman, they ended up being a nation that it doesn't know its tongue, mighty, would come and destroy it, and they would eat their own. Look at all the cursings in Deuteronomy there, and then the blessings are short and clear and simple, but cursings are long, much longer. That's distress. That's some destruction, man. I can't help to see what I see, that the harlot's end is going to be something similar, man. At the end, it's going to be pretty brutal all around the world because it's not about one location. The harlot is the heart, so it's not about a location now as it was Jerusalem. Here it is right here. And then his people are scattered, but then the many called are also all around the world. And the prophecy says that they would fornicate with the kings of the earth and all nations. Look at it. Look at it. We're like at the end of the prophecy. It's pretty much spread out through all nations. The works of the Pharisees and the church buildings that where God doesn't dwell, the Most High doesn't dwell. in temples made with hands. They built all around the nations, converting people into death. Amazing, scary prophecy, man. You know how offensive this must sound to them in there? Extraordinarily offensive. It will cause immediate murder, hatred, and envy. And I don't know of any other truth. If I said anything else, I'd be lying. They can't see that. There's an understanding with two things always: the kingdom of heaven, but then right next to it is all the weeds, the kingdom of the devil. And this corruption also grows, just as the kingdom of heaven's growing within, and even on a whole, it's going to keep going until it grows until, but what within, the kingdom of heaven is within. First in the parable is the man sows the seed, and the seed becomes a giant tree, and this is good. This is the kingdom of heaven growing in somebody. Or a woman takes a little leaven in the dark, in hiding, in secrecy, and puts it inside in secrecy. That means it's not obvious to those not seeing. And then it grows leaven, it grows corruption, it's corrupt bread, until the whole thing is lumped. One is man, one is a woman. It's interesting. And then the man and woman, it's like that marriage is like corrupt, messed up. It can't be one. But one represents the kingdom of heaven, and then the very next parable right under it is the evil thing growing right all around the kingdom of heaven, which is the many. The weeds, corruption's growing. So either we're growing and getting closer to the Father, or we're growing more and corrupting, going away more. Those are the two things in the parable. Kingdom of heaven, or beastly kingdoms, or harlot, all one. Growing corruption until it's fully corrupt at the end, hard like a rock and corrupt. Cain is driven away from the Father's presence. And he says, this is too much to bear. And he sows, but he doesn't reap what he should reap. These are teaching his judgments. Someone says inside themselves, I'm not doing good. But they lie on the outside to make it look like his word is not true all day long. And we read over and over again in scripture, in the heart, someone says this or this or this. In the heart, someone says this or this or this. Inside, they speak to themselves like this. The Father would know something about it. In the heart of the rich, he despises and hates the poor. Now, where's the scripture that teaches the opposite? The rich, apart from the Father, hate the poor and crush them by their carnal strength. But what do? Make it look like they care about them. What good is that if the heart hates them? Who cares what it looks like? And everybody believes the damnable image. And it knows it can count on this image and all the people surrounding it. Someone screams on the rooftop and they get their best rifle out and put a bullet in their head. They need to shut them up because they're afraid and fearful and cowardly. But they know they got the crowd and the numbers and the power in the numbers to just shut them all up and murder them. That's what's going on 24/7. The image of the beast that's projected while inside it's doing the sin that our Father's word teaches. It's been true right from the beginning with Adam and Eve. The works, the fruit, good and evil, need to be divided. They can't be one on the same thing, one on the same tree mixed. They have to be, it's either good or bad, separate. And someone's a good tree or a bad tree. and a bad tree can't produce good works. But this is speaking of the heart. It never can do things with right, true, righteous, good intentions. It's doing evil works continually without the Father Spirit. The thought and intentions of the heart is only evil continually, and who believes it? Yeah, it was for like people back then. No, it's not. They just casually say things like that so they can do away with truth, so that they can justify their own heart and stay away from that truth. Yeah, mankind got flooded and judged. Blame it on demons or something, or fallen angels, I mean, and all this other stuff. They're going to get flooded again with fire, and no one's going to believe it when it comes because it believes it's good. There'll be mockers and scoffers because there always were. Amazing prophecy. Before, I don't know, look up some empire that existed 500 years ago but have been destroyed, or destroyed 500 years ago. There were a few believers there saying something about it. Nobody believed them. And then the nation got wiped like a bowl. That noise, man. The devil doesn't like truth. And it's been happening ever since. Messiah prophesied and said and warned and gave plenty of advance. Fathers show patience that there is no excuse. Man will never be able to say that he wasn't warned or had time or any of this. He just won't be able to say that. Jerusalem and the temple's going to fall. It's over. And it happened. And nobody believed it. They tore their clothes because they're God. Do you see who you're speaking to? The high priest, God. They didn't like judgment. That's the point. This is in the heart. This teaching is like teaching that carnal man hates actual judgments. It cannot believe it. They tear their clothes and say blasphemy. This is enough to kill him. And the church world will not do anything different that are of the anti-Messiah spirit. They will do the murder in their heart, as we read like that, for anybody that's speaking judgments and warning them. They won't care. They want to do murder. And it's so blinded. It says, bring it on. Put all the judgment on us. We don't care. Just hurry up and kill them. That's what we read. Release the evil, Barnabas. Kill the good, Messiah. Crazy. It's only when truth out of the Father's Spirit is spoken that someone's wrath comes out. So consistent. As long as you're sort of playing the image and going along with, as soon as a little bit of testing or pressure or something goes wrong, boom, wrath, boom, anger, boom, it's attacking, boom, how dare you touch me, boom, can't believe you lied to me, boom. It just blows up instantly. At any point, two devils, two friends attack each other and it's over. It can happen at any point. And they're both just using each other. As long as the one is insecure and needing to be needed and the other is insecure needing to be needed, and then they both use each other and give each other gift, and then it repays, and then the other gives another gift and it repays, and they have a war on who can repay the best because it's doing wickedness, because it knows a little something about someone giving a gift. Oh, he's trying to control me, put me in debt, whatever, so now I got to repay him real quick. But then it does the same thing to others and doesn't like when they say the same thing they just did. Oh, it's nasty. Messiah says they'll be repaid in the resurrection of the just. How does someone read that and not believe in the resurrection of the just? I thought the just are already spiritually resurrected. That's the understanding only. There's no actual resurrection now. Then how come the just need resurrecting from the stupid carnal man? They can't see that both things are true. Therefore, they don't really actually see the spiritual thing. It's a liar and a deceiver playing tricks and games. Trick or treat time coming up. Boo, gotcha. Scared you. I'm a devil. Ooh. Casper the ghost is coming for you. And Grim Reapers and skulls and bones, and it's all fun and games. It's like, you know why people like being a cop, because that's what's going on in the heart, how they can finally have freedom, like where everyone agrees to go crazy and be something that they're not, wearing a mask. Yes, I can act like a crazy person finally without anyone looking at me weird. I can finally be what I really am for a little bit. Be a monster like I really am. Wearing a mask like I'm always doing. Always hiding what the heart really is. This is the costume, the cover. Why they like it so much. No, that's foolishness to them. It's just Halloween to the carnal man. It's just happy times and costumes. What's wrong with you? Ease up. What are you, stiff? Have a drink and have a party with us. Something's wrong with you, bro. Are you depressed? Thanks for revealing everything that person is. That's why it's doing all that stuff. It's been doing this since the beginning. It just did all that only to hide that it's all that itself. Can it acknowledge it? Never. Never. Not on its own. Not as long as the man of sin and son of perdition is inside there, sitting as God, above all gods. It's not going to deny itself. It's God. Can't do any such thing. It needs to be destroyed. It needs a deadly wound. Deadly blow, where the false prophets heal the deadly wound of the beast, and then they believe the false prophet cares, or this sick thing going on where they get attached, but it's through punishment. It's not a real love. It's through disease. Because the false prophet healed Messiah from me, healed the deadly wound of the beast. That was close. I was going in the wrong direction for a while, but he saved me. Plus, that way is only tribulation and distress and evil and bad things happen to you. And now he found that God wants peace and life and churches for the sick and diseased, just like we read. Man. I didn't know the Father's people full of his spirit are diseased and sick, as if the Father's spirit is diseased and sick. Now, when we teach and believe the understanding of the Messiah's blood covering us, all of a sudden, when it applies for real, then it's not, just using that as an excuse. Maybe that's what they've been doing all along. How come then when the real thing is spoken, they don't like Messiah's blood covering the carnal man, and he's not counted for doing the works? This is only good when it's actually true. Not when someone says words and it's not true for them and they have nothing to do with it. Only using it as, like they say. How come they know how to say that right away, instantly, as a cover, hiding, a workaround, excuse for sin? How come they know how to do that right away? Maybe because that's all they ever have been doing and know. And that the blood of Jesus has only been covering their sins to literally understand it like that, so that they can sin all they want, hiding in there. How come when we really care and talk about things, this is what comes back by them, and they make this accusation when we speak about the real thing and what it's really doing, which is not an excuse to sin. Over there, it's an excuse to sin. Everything they are, they dump it on his people continually. They've never done anything else since the beginning of creation. And we did those same works. But it's true nevertheless. You know, in times past, plenty of this evil. Now it's time to not do this. We read that. How come they don't like those words? Well, they don't actually believe somebody's overcoming sin, right? The Father can't do this. He's powerless. That's why we read, stay away from those that deny his power for real. You see this discernment that they don't believe any of this. They just denied everything. They don't know him. Whoever denies his power doesn't have him. Notice how all day long they say things to make people smile and happy. That's a deceiver. Where isn't that being done? And then in the mega churches, it's like even worse and more puke, because those big time big shots are like even more sin. So it's more obvious to me. The bigger the sin, the more obvious, and more they pour out their folly. Where they have the devil smirk, it's the devil standing right there in the flesh, killing and destroying and raping all these people, 1,000 people in the crowd, 10,000, whatever it is. And it builds this thing up. Okay. And then he says some stupid thing and everybody goes, wow. That's shameful, man. It's evil. Zero wisdom. It just sounds kind of good to them. That's it. What is that? What is that? That's a spiritual sorcery and sex and orgies. Yes, it is. He's getting off on doing all that. He's getting off on it. Just like someone, as you can maybe picture it in the natural thing, gets off on it. And you know what's true about the natural thing for anybody that's out there doing that? They can't stop doing that. That's all they can do, because they're being punished. That's why they're a leader in religion, because they're being punished for their sin. They can't stop having orgies with these people. Yes, and the Creator only knows that they even do this literally. Who knows how many of them try to hide that? These people aren't saints. They heard a single true word from anybody that's of the Father. The whole crowd and that false prophet will roar like a lion to get them out and want to kill them. It will murder it all at once with the heart. It's so blind, it doesn't know what murder is. It could do that right now to somebody that's a believer. Kick them out, murder them with their heart, with hatred, and then go back to smiling and dancing, and then saying, I never did any sin. Pretty scary. No wonder they do this kind of thing to hide. That's what they are. You need to smile more. They're afraid of you. That's why they say that. Or they don't like, they have to hide constantly what they are, that they're not doing good. So they ask you, you're just okay? Ha ha ha. Why did they do that? Because if they do that, no one will suspect. It thinks that they're not doing okay because they projected that image. They must be okay because they're doing that. It's a nasty thing. It's childish. It's stupid. I probably got a last minute order here. No. Wow, 2 hours going on here. What do people... Yep, I do got an order. Another last minute order. Nothing all day long practically. No tip. real considerate. But so it is. Got to do it anyways. They do these things on purpose a lot of times. I'm convinced of it. I know people do things like this. Wait till the last minute. No tip. And then laugh and smirk inside. Well, they'll eat judgment. That's what's going to happen. They'll get their food. They'll eat judgment. If they were to hear real food, they would try to pull out their shotgun. Their heart. Just a giant clown fest every day. Clowns, spiritual clowns, children. Where's that scripture here? You who hate good and love evil, who strip the skin from my people and the flesh from their bones, who also eat the flesh of my people, flay their skin from them, break their bones, chop them in pieces, like meat for the pot and like flesh in the cauldron. Wow, I got another last minute order. Nothing for hours. And then they just dump their orders. Amazing. Let me guess, no tip. Only had a few orders today, and virtually all of them were no tips. No, about $1 at the most, $1.50. I'm spending a whole hour on restaurant orders, driving there. I make $1 total. There's no tips after fees and gas is considered. Wow. Seems like the ideal thing is to stop working for the beast completely. I'm kind of tired of it. It doesn't pay good wages. I mean, spiritually. Unbelievable, man. It's just nasty. It's just a worthless job. But that's what I've been. Where is that scripture here? Then they will cry to Yah, but he will not hear them. He will hide his face from them because of their evil deeds. Thus says, what do they want now? Oh. Thus says Yahuwah concerning the prophets, who make my people stray, who chant peace while they chew with their teeth, but who prepare war against him, who puts nothing into their mouths. Therefore you shall have night without vision, and you shall have darkness without divination. The sun shall go down on the prophets, and the day shall be dark for them. All right, I gotta go.